What if I told you that the most powerful medicines on this planet have never appeared in a pharmaceutical advertisement? What if the remedies that once sustained entire civilizations, that healers carried across continents and whispered down through generations, have been sitting in plain sight this entire time, growing quietly in hedgerows, meadows, and mountain forests, entirely free of charge? Before we go any further, I want to mark something on your map. Number 17 on today's list was once traded weight for weight against gold. Empires rose and fell over access to it. And yet today, you can grow it in a pot on a kitchen windowsill. Stay with me, because what is coming will fundamentally change how you see the world outside your door. Elderberry, Sambucus nigra. The elder tree occupies a position in European folk medicine so central that the 17th century physician Thomas Sydenham reportedly said you could fill an entire book on medicine with elderberry alone. It is indigenous to Europe, North Africa, and Western Asia, and archaeological evidence places its medicinal use at Neolithic sites in Switzerland over 5,000 years ago. Native American nations independently identified the elder as medicinal, using the bark, flowers, leaves, and berries for entirely different conditions. Hippocrates himself called the elder tree his medicine chest. Modern immunology has begun to explain what ancient healers observed empirically. Elderberries are extraordinarily rich in anthocyanins, the dark pigment compounds that act as potent antioxidants. A landmark study published in the Journal of International Medical Research found that elderberry extract reduced the duration of influenza by an average of 4 days compared to placebo. Separate research has identified compounds in elderberry that bind directly to viral particles, physically preventing them from entering host cells. The berries also provide significant quantities of vitamin C, vitamin B6, and iron. Elderberry is one of the most rewarding plants a homesteader can cultivate. It thrives in full sun to partial shade, tolerates a wide range of soils, and grows with vigorous speed, often reaching 8 to 10 feet within its second year. Plant 2 different varieties for cross-pollination. Harvest clusters in late summer when berries are uniformly dark. Always cook elderberries before consumption. Raw berries contain sambunigrin, which causes nausea. Simmer with water and honey to produce elderberry syrup. Add ginger and cinnamon for enhanced effect. Store in the refrigerator for up to 2 months or preserve by freezing whole clusters. Yarrow, Achillea millefolium. The genus name Achillea commemorates the Greek hero Achilles, who, according to legend, applied yarrow to the wounds of his soldiers on the plains of Troy. This is not merely poetic folklore. Excavations of Shanidar Cave in Iraq revealed that a Neanderthal burial site, approximately 60,000 years old, contained pollen from yarrow alongside other medicinal plants, suggesting intentional placement. From the highlands of Scotland to the steppes of Central Asia, yarrow has been the soldier's herb, the wound healer, the plant carried into every battle for millennia. Contemporary phytochemistry has confirmed yarrow's hemostatic, blood-stopping properties. The plant contains achilletin, a compound that actively promotes blood coagulation. Research has also identified significant anti-inflammatory activity from yarrow's flavonoids and sesquiterpene lactones, which inhibit key inflammatory pathways in a manner similar to common NSAIDs. Yarrow additionally demonstrates antimicrobial activity against several bacterial strains, including Staphylococcus aureus. A tea of yarrow flowers has been shown to support healthy perspiration during fevers, assisting the body's own thermoregulatory process. Yarrow is perhaps the most enthusiastic grower on this entire list. Once established, it will spread via both seed and underground rhizome with very little encouragement. Plant in a sunny, well-drained location, and it will return every year. Harvest the flat flower heads and feathery leaves throughout summer. Dry and loose bundles upside down in a shaded, ventilated space. For wound application, a poultice of fresh crushed leaves applied directly to a minor cut will noticeably reduce bleeding. For fever support, brew a strong infusion with 1 tablespoon of dried herb per cup of boiling water and steep for 15 minutes. Hawthorn, Crataegus monogyna, occupies a sacred space in the traditional medicine of nearly every culture in the northern temperate world. In Chinese medicine, it has been prescribed for digestive and cardiovascular complaints since at least the Tang Dynasty, roughly 1400 years ago. In European herbalism, hawthorn was the definitive heart tonic. A 19th century Irish physician in County Clare reportedly achieved remarkable results treating heart failure patients with a secret hawthorn preparation, a practice later formalized and studied by European pharmacologists who found the claims were entirely justified. Hawthorn is today one of the most extensively studied medicinal plants in cardiology. Multiple randomized clinical trials, including the large SPICE trial published in the European Journal of Heart Failure, have examined hawthorn extract in patients with chronic heart failure. The active compounds, primarily oligomeric proanthocyanidins and flavonoids, have demonstrated three distinct cardiovascular mechanisms. They dilate blood vessels to reduce peripheral resistance, they improve the efficiency of cardiac muscle contraction, and they provide substantial antioxidant protection to arterial tissue. Germany's Commission E, the regulatory body that formally evaluates herbal medicines, has approved hawthorn extract for declining cardiac output. Hawthorn is invaluable on a homestead, both medicinally and practically. Its dense, thorny growth makes it the ideal natural hedge, stock-proof and wildlife-supporting simultaneously. It tolerates poor soils, hard pruning, and exposed positions. Harvest the berries, called haws, in October after the first frosts have softened them. Make hawthorn berry syrup or tincture using 80-proof vodka as a menstruum, extracted over 4 weeks. The flowers and young leaves harvested in May are equally medicinal and can be consumed fresh in salads or dried for tea. Plantain, Plantago major. When European settlers first arrived in North America, they unknowingly carried plantain seeds in the soil clinging to their boots and in their hay bales. The plant spread ahead of the frontier with such speed that Native American nations called it white man's foot. Wherever settlers walked, plantain appeared. Anglo-Saxon healers listed plantain, which they called way broad, meaning broad one of the ways, among the 9 sacred herbs, placing it in company with plants of the deepest ritual significance. It is one of the oldest continuously used medicinal plants in the human record. Plantain's most remarkable compound is aucubin, an iridoid glycoside with well-documented anti-inflammatory and tissue repair properties. Research has confirmed significant wound healing acceleration. Plantain extracts have been shown to increase fibroblast migration, the cellular mechanism underlying tissue closure. The plant also contains mucilage compounds that soothe irritated mucous membranes, making it valuable for both respiratory complaints and digestive inflammation. Plantain leaves are additionally a respectable nutritional source, containing vitamins K and A alongside meaningful quantities of calcium. You almost certainly already have plantain growing somewhere on your land. Look for it in compacted, frequently walked soil, in driveways and along fence lines. It requires no cultivation whatsoever. For immediate first aid, chew a clean, fresh leaf for 30 seconds to activate the enzymes and apply the resulting poultice directly to an insect sting, minor burn, or skin irritation. The relief is rapid and entirely real. For internal use, dry the leaves and brew as tea. Plantain leaf can also be infused in olive oil, gently heated for 4 to 6 hours in a double boiler to produce a powerful wound-healing salve base. Calendula's medicinal legacy stretches from ancient Egypt, where the flower was associated with rejuvenation and longevity, through the courts of medieval Europe, where it was called pot marigold and added to soups and broths for its warming, healing properties, all the way to the American Civil War, where field surgeons applied calendula poultices to open wounds when nothing else was available. The botanical name, officialis, is itself a declaration of official recognition. It designates a plant formally stocked in apothecary shops, distinguishing it from mere garden ornamentals. Calendula contains a rich matrix of bioactive compounds, flavonoids including quercetin and isoramnitin, triterpenoids including oleanolic acid, and carotenoids that give the flower its distinctive orange hue. Clinical research has demonstrated that calendula extract significantly accelerates wound closure and epithelialization, the regrowth of skin over a wound. A study published in the Journal of Wound Care found calendula cream superior to petroleum jelly for post-surgical wound healing. Calendula has additionally demonstrated measurable antifungal activity against Candida species and anti-inflammatory action comparable to hydrocortisone in certain laboratory models. Calendula is one of the most productive and generous plants a homesteader can grow. Direct sow seeds in early spring as soon as the soil can be worked. Calendula tolerates frost and actually prefers cooler growing temperatures. It will bloom prolifically from late spring until hard frost if flower heads are harvested regularly. Pick blooms when they are fully open and slightly sticky with resin. Dry on screens in a single layer. Infuse dried flowers in olive oil using the cold method. Fill a jar, cover with oil, seal, and leave on a sunny windowsill for 4 to 6 weeks. This infused oil is the foundation of calendula salve, one of the most versatile healing preparations in all of natural first aid. If you believe in the power of traditional plant wisdom, knowledge that was nearly lost but is now being confirmed by modern science, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's build a community of people who take their health back into their own hands. Valerian, Valeriana officialis. Valerian has been prescribed for anxiety and sleeplessness for at least 2,000 years. The Greek physician Dioscorides, writing in the 1st century CE, described it as a remedy for nervousness and palpitations. Medieval European monasteries cultivated valerian in their physic gardens as a standard preparation for agitation and insomnia. The name itself may derive from the Latin valere, meaning to be strong or to be well, a linguistic echo of its intended effect. During the Second World War, valerian was widely distributed in England to help civilians manage the psychological trauma of sustained aerial bombardment. Valerian's sedative and anxiolytic effects are now partially understood at the molecular level. The root contains valerianic acid, which has been shown to modulate GABA receptors in the brain, the same inhibitory pathway targeted by benzodiazepine medications, though through a notably gentler and non-addictive mechanism. Multiple meta-analyses, including a comprehensive review published in the American Journal of Medicine, have concluded that valerian significantly improves subjective sleep quality compared to placebo, with minimal side effects and no reported physical dependency. The plant also contains antispasmodic compounds useful for relieving smooth muscle tension throughout the body. Valerian grows readily from seed or root division in most temperate climates, preferring moist, fertile soil in full sun to partial shade. It is a striking garden plant, statuesque, abundantly flowering, and beloved by pollinators. Harvest roots in autumn of the plant's second year, when the concentration of active compounds is at its highest. The fresh root has a relatively mild smell. Drying intensifies the characteristic pungent odor that the plant is known for. Tincture the root in 60% alcohol for 4 weeks, or dry and encapsulate for convenient use. For a simple sleep preparation, simmer 1 teaspoon of dried root in 2 cups of water for 15 minutes, strain, and drink 30 minutes before bed. Comfrey, Symphytum officinale. Comfrey's historical names tell you everything about its traditional application: knit bone, bone set, bruisewort, healing herb. Greek and Roman physicians applied comfrey root preparations directly to fractures and joint injuries. The root was pounded into a paste, formed around broken limbs and left to harden, functioning, in practical effect, as a biological cast. The medieval herbalist John Gerard wrote in 1597 that the root was so powerfully adhesive that pieces of meat boiled together with comfrey in a pot would knit and join into a continuous whole. An exaggeration, but one that captured the community's genuine astonishment at the plant's effects. The compound responsible for comfrey's extraordinary tissue healing properties is allantoin, a cell proliferating agent that actively accelerates the division and multiplication of connective tissue cells. Multiple clinical trials have confirmed that comfrey root extract cream significantly outperforms conventional treatments for sprains, muscle pain, and blunt force trauma. A randomized trial published in Phytomedicine found that comfrey cream reduced ankle sprain pain and swelling more rapidly than diclofenac gel. An essential safety note, comfrey contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids that are harmful to the liver when consumed internally. The plant is considered safe and therapeutically valuable exclusively for topical external application. Comfrey is practically impossible to kill once established. A small fragment of root will regenerate an entire plant, which is both its great virtue and its one caution: plant it where you intend it to remain permanently. It grows large and lush, making it one of the most valued dynamic accumulator plants in permaculture. Its deep taproot mines minerals from subsoil layers and deposits them in its leaves upon decomposition, enriching the soil around it. For medicinal use, harvest roots in autumn and prepare either an oil infusion or a simple poultice of freshly grated root wrapped in clean cotton cloth, applied to sprains, bruises, and unbroken skin overlying fracture sites. Holy basil, or tulsi, Ocimum tenuiflorum. In the Ayurvedic medical tradition of India, one of the world's oldest continuously practiced healing systems, holy basil, or tulsi, holds the title of Queen of Herbs. It is considered so sacred that a tulsi plant growing in a home's courtyard is regarded as a blessing upon all who dwell within. For over 3,000 years, Ayurvedic physicians have prescribed tulsi as a rasayana, an herb that promotes longevity, intelligence, and resilience. It appears in the Charaka Samhita, one of Ayurveda's foundational texts, specifically for its capacity to build both physical endurance and mental strength. Modern adaptogen research has given tulsi a formal scientific category. It is classified as an adaptogen, meaning it demonstrably assists the body in modulating its physiological and psychological responses to stress. Studies have shown that tulsi extract reduces serum cortisol, the primary stress hormone, while simultaneously supporting immune function. Research has also identified significant antimicrobial properties, with tulsi essential oils showing activity against drug-resistant bacterial strains. A notable clinical study published in the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine documented measurable cognitive improvements in memory, sustained attention, and processing speed among healthy adults taking tulsi extract for 6 consecutive weeks. Tulsi grows as a tender perennial in tropical climates and as a vigorous and productive annual in temperate ones. Start seeds indoors 6 weeks before the last frost date and transplant to a warm, sheltered, sunny position. It performs beautifully in large containers on a south-facing porch or windowsill. Harvest leaves throughout the growing season, pinching off flower buds to encourage bushier growth and a higher overall leaf yield. Fresh leaves brewed directly in hot water produce a deeply fragrant, honey-sweet tea. Dry excess harvest at low temperatures to preserve the volatile oils. Tulsi's complex flavor, notes of clove, black pepper, and sweet basil, makes it as valuable in the kitchen as in the medicine garden. Lemon balm, Melissa officinalis, has been associated with bees, longevity, and calm since the classical world. The great Arabic physician Avicenna, writing in his monumental Canon of Medicine in the 11th century, prescribed lemon balm specifically to make the heart merry and to treat melancholy and anxiety. Paracelsus, the radical Swiss physician of the Renaissance, called it the elixir of life. Carmelite nuns in Paris produced a celebrated lemon balm tonic called Carmelite water beginning in the 14th century, widely regarded across Europe as a reliable remedy for nervous headaches and emotional distress. The tradition continued for over 400 years. Lemon balm's calming properties are now well documented in clinical literature. The plant contains rosmarinic acid, which inhibits the enzyme responsible for breaking down GABA in the brain, effectively prolonging the brain's own calming signal in a manner that is gentle and distinctly non-sedating. A double-blind study published in Psychosomatic Medicine found that lemon balm extract significantly reduced psychological stress and improved mood in healthy volunteers under laboratory-induced stress conditions. Separately, research has confirmed antiviral activity against herpes simplex virus. Topical lemon balm cream has been shown in multiple randomized trials to significantly reduce the healing time of cold sores. Lemon balm is a highly productive perennial in the mint family. It will spread enthusiastically by seed and root from a single plant, so a dedicated raised bed or a large container is advisable. It tolerates partial shade, making it valuable for positions other medicinal herbs will reject. Harvest young leaves before the plant flowers for the highest essential oil content. Use fresh leaves in tea, cold water infusions, and cooking. Dry excess quickly at low temperatures to retain the volatile lemon oils. For antiviral topical use, brew a concentrated lemon balm tea, cool it completely, and apply it to a cold sore with a clean cotton ball several times throughout the day. This is an evidence-supported intervention. This next one is even more remarkable, and it carries one of the most extraordinary stories of scientific rediscovery in modern medical history. Artemisia sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua. In 1682 BCE, a Chinese physician buried a silk medical handbook in a tomb at Mawangdui, a text that would not be read by human eyes again until its excavation in 1973 CE. Among its prescriptions was a clear recommendation for Artemisia annua, called Qinghao in classical Chinese medicine, for the treatment of persistent fever. This same 2,000-year-old text eventually reached a Chinese scientist named Tu Youyou, who used it as the starting point for research that would win her the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2015 for isolating artemisinin, a compound from Artemisia annua that became the foundation of the world's most effective treatments for malaria. Artemisinin and its pharmaceutical derivatives are now the global standard of care for malaria, recommended by the World Health Organization as the first-line treatment for Plasmodium falciparum infection. But the research has expanded considerably beyond that application. Artemisinin has demonstrated significant anti-cancer properties in laboratory studies. It appears to selectively target cancer cells through an iron-dependent free radical generation mechanism that spares healthy tissue. Human clinical trials are currently ongoing. The plant additionally contains a broad spectrum of flavonoids with documented antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity. Sweet wormwood is an annual that grows readily from seed in well-drained soil and full sun. It is drought-tolerant, relatively pest-resistant, and remarkably undemanding. Harvest the aerial portions, leaves, and upper stems just as the plant begins to flower, when artemisinin concentration reaches its seasonal peak. Dry and shade to preserve the volatile compounds. Traditional Chinese preparation notably used cold water infusion rather than boiling. Tu Youyou's research confirmed that high heat destroys artemisinin, precisely explaining why the ancient instructions specified cold water. Grow it as part of a dedicated medicinal garden and consult a qualified herbalist for specific preparation guidance. If this history of forgotten plant medicine resonates with you, if you feel the weight of knowledge that was nearly severed from us, share this video with someone who is ready to hear it. Your share is how this information survives and reaches the people who need it most. Ashwagandha, Withania somnifera. Ashwagandha is described in both the Charaka Samhita and the Sushruta Samhita, the two foundational texts of Ayurvedic medicine dating back over 3,000 years, as a premier rejuvenating tonic belonging to the Rasayana category, herbs that build strength and actively promote longevity. Its Sanskrit name translates as smell of horse, referring both to the root's pungent, earthy odor and to the traditional belief that consistent use confers the extraordinary strength and stamina of horse. For 3 uninterrupted millennia, it has been prescribed for physical weakness, anemia, nervous exhaustion, and as the definitive tonic herb for aging. Ashwagandha is now among the most extensively researched adaptogens in modern pharmacology. Its primary active compounds, a class called withanolides, have been shown to significantly reduce serum cortisol levels in chronically stressed individuals. A rigorous, double-blind, randomized clinical trial published in Medicine found that 600 milligrams of ashwagandha root extract daily produced a 30% reduction in cortisol, alongside significant improvements in sleep quality and substantial reductions in self-reported anxiety over 60 days. Separate studies have documented improvements in muscular strength, aerobic endurance, and testosterone levels. Clinically meaningful thyroid modulating effects have also been reported. Ashwagandha is a warm climate shrub that grows as a tender perennial in USDA hardiness zones 8 through 11 and performs reliably as an annual in cooler climates. It demands well-drained, even sandy soil. Waterlogged roots will kill it. In shorter season climates, start seeds indoors 10 weeks before transplanting and grow in the largest available container. Harvest roots in late autumn after the plant's first full growing season. Scrub thoroughly, slice thin, and dry at low temperatures. The dried root powder simmered in warm whole milk with raw honey, a preparation called ashwagandha milk or moon milk, is among the most palatable and time-honored modes of consistent consumption. Reishi mushroom, Ganoderma lucidum. In ancient Chinese court culture, reishi was so extraordinarily rare and so deeply revered that it was reserved exclusively for emperors and their households. It was called lingji, the herb of spiritual potency, or the mushroom of immortality. Classical Chinese medical texts classify it as superior medicine in the highest category, that which promotes longevity without toxicity, regardless of dose or duration. Taoists believed that sustained reishi consumption could confer remarkable vitality, psychological clarity, and meaningfully extended lifespan. The Shen Nong Bencao Jing, the foundational pharmacopoeia of Chinese herbal medicine compiled around 200 CE, placed reishi above every other plant and fungus in its entire therapeutic hierarchy. Modern mycopharmacology has produced a substantial and growing body of evidence for reishi's immunomodulatory properties, its distinctive capacity to both stimulate and regulate immune system activity depending on the body's current state and needs. The primary active compounds, beta-glucans and triterpenes, have been shown to enhance natural killer cell activity, support macrophage function, and demonstrate measurable anti-tumor properties across multiple study models. Research has additionally confirmed that reishi compounds cross the blood-brain barrier and exert calming, anti-anxiety effects through GABA receptor modulation. Clinical studies have documented significant improvements in quality of life and reductions in treatment-related fatigue in cancer patients. Reishi can be cultivated at home using hardwood logs or supplemented sawdust blocks inoculated with reishi mycelium available from specialist mushroom cultivation suppliers. The fungus requires high humidity, indirect light, and genuine patience. Fruiting bodies take 6 to 12 months to develop on freshly inoculated logs. Once harvested, dried slices are simmered in water for a minimum of 2 hours to extract the water-soluble polysaccharides. The resulting deep mahogany broth can be consumed directly or used as the base of nourishing soups and stews. The taste is distinctly bitter, a bitterness that is itself traditionally considered medicinal. Honey is an appropriate and traditional companion. Feverfew, Tanacetum parthenium, takes its common name directly from its most ancient and primary documented use, the reduction of fever. The Roman physician Dioscorides prescribed it for this purpose in the 1st century CE. Nicholas Culpeper, writing in his Complete Herbal in 1653, recommended it for headaches and melancholy and for those who were, in his characteristic phrase, giddy in the head. Feverfew returned to widespread clinical attention in the 1970s when a numerous Welsh physician observed that numerous patients consuming fresh feverfew leaves daily reported dramatic reductions in both the frequency and severity of migraine attacks, an observation that prompted a series of rigorous formal investigations. Feverfew's primary active compound, parthenolide, inhibits platelet aggregation and the release of serotonin from platelets, two processes understood to be central to the biochemical initiation of migraine. Multiple randomized controlled trials have confirmed that regular feverfew consumption significantly reduces migraine frequency. A landmark study published in The Lancet found that patients consuming feverfew experienced significantly fewer and less severe migraine episodes than the placebo group, and critically, reported that discontinuing feverfew was followed by a return of their migraines, directly confirming the herb's active therapeutic role. Feverfew also inhibits prostaglandin synthesis, contributing dual anti-inflammatory and anti-migraine mechanisms. Feverfew is a low-maintenance, self-seeding perennial that will colonize a corner of the garden with very little assistance. It prefers well-drained soil and a position in full sun. For migraine prevention, the traditional dose is 2 to 3 fresh leaves daily, consumed in a small sandwich. The leaves alone are too intensely bitter and may cause mouth ulcers if chewed directly. Alternatively, dry and encapsulate the leaf powder or prepare a 4-week tincture. An important caution: feverfew should not be used during pregnancy as it possesses documented uterotonic properties. Milk thistle, Silybum marianum. Milk thistle's documented medicinal use for liver complaints begins in the 1st century CE, when Pliny the Elder recorded that the seeds were excellent for carrying off bile. The plant was abundant in the Mediterranean basin and was adopted into European monastic medicine as a reliable and well-regarded liver tonic. The great medieval herbalist Hildegard of Bingen recommended it for what she termed side pains, a broad category encompassing abdominal and hepatic complaints. The distinctive white marbling on milk thistle leaves gave rise to the Christian legend that drops of the Virgin Mary's milk had marked them, producing the common name Our Lady's thistle. Milk thistle is today among the most thoroughly studied hepatoprotective, liver-protecting plants in all of clinical medicine. The active compound complex known as silymarin, extracted from the seeds, has been demonstrated to perform 3 distinct and complementary functions. It protects liver cells from toxin entry by competitively occupying cellular receptor sites. It accelerates liver cell regeneration by stimulating ribosomal protein synthesis, and it acts as a powerful and specific antioxidant within hepatic tissue. European clinical guidelines recommend silymarin as a standard supportive treatment for toxic liver damage, cirrhosis, and chronic hepatitis. Research has also indicated benefits for type 2 diabetes through insulin-sensitizing mechanisms. Milk thistle is a biennial or short-lived perennial that self-seeds with remarkable generosity. Establish it once and it will maintain a self-sustaining colony. It thrives in the most challenging, dry, nutrient-depleted conditions imaginable, making it ideal for the difficult corners and waste ground of any homestead. Harvest seed heads before they shatter and disperse, typically in late summer. Thresh the dried heads to separate the seeds. Grind seeds in a dedicated coffee grinder and stir the resulting powder into smoothies, soups, oatmeal, or baked goods. The seeds can also be cold-pressed for a rich, nutritious oil. For medicinal strength preparations, a standardized extract provides more reliable and consistent silymarin dosing. Echinacea, Echinacea purpurea. From many of the indigenous nations of the North American Great Plains, including the Lakota, Cheyenne, Comanche, and Kiowa, Echinacea was the single most important medicinal plant in their entire pharmacopoeia. It was applied to an extraordinary range of conditions: toothache, sore throats, snakebite, wound infections, and as a reliable fever remedy. When European settlers arrived on the plains, they observed native healers using echinacea and adopted the practice with such enthusiasm that by the 1880s, echinacea preparations had become the most widely sold patent medicines in the United States. The eclectic physicians, the 19th century's dedicated plant-based medical school, recommended it for virtually every infectious illness they encountered. Echinacea's mechanism of action is now understood to be primarily immunomodulatory rather than directly antimicrobial. Its compounds, alkylamides, caffeic acid derivatives, and polysaccharides appear to activate macrophages and natural killer cells while promoting the production of interferon, the body's own antiviral signaling molecule. A comprehensive meta-analysis published in Lancet Infectious Diseases examined 14 randomized controlled trials and concluded that echinacea preparations reduced the incidence of the common cold by 58% and reduced its duration by 1.4 days compared to placebo. Effectiveness varies considerably by preparation. Root-based preparations consistently appear superior to preparations using only aerial parts. Echinacea purpurea is one of the most beautiful and reliable medicinal perennials available to homesteaders across North America and temperate Europe. It grows vigorously from seed or root division, tolerates a wide range of soil conditions, returns dependably each year, and provides exceptional ornamental value across its long summer flowering season. Allow plants to establish fully for 3 years before harvesting roots. Harvest in early autumn. Fresh roots can be tinctured immediately in 60% alcohol or sliced and dried for later preparation. For maximum immune support, begin use at the very first sign of symptoms rather than taking it as a preventative daily supplement. This targeted approach is what the clinical evidence best supports. We are now 3/4 of the way through this ancient living library of plant knowledge. If you have learned something here today that you never encountered in school, something that makes you question who decides what knowledge gets passed down and what gets quietly forgotten, leave a comment below. Your voice matters in this conversation. Rosemary, Salvia rosmarinus, rosemary's symbolism and medicinal reputation are inextricably woven into Western cultural memory. It was the herb of remembrance, worn at funerals in ancient Greece and Rome, carried at weddings, placed at the sites of those being honored. The connection to memory was never merely symbolic. Greek scholars wore rosemary garlands while studying for examinations, firmly believing the plant enhanced mental clarity and information retention, a belief that, remarkably, modern neuroscience has now validated through controlled study. Medieval European herbalists and court physicians consistently and specifically recommended rosemary for the brain, the heart, and the peripheral circulation. A landmark study conducted at Northumbria University demonstrated that simply being in a room diffused with rosemary essential oil produced significant and measurable improvements in prospective memory, the specific cognitive capacity to remember to perform intended future tasks, compared to control conditions. The compound most responsible for this effect is 1,8-cineol, which has been shown to inhibit acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter most associated with memory formation and retrieval. This is precisely the biochemical mechanism that several leading pharmaceutical drugs for Alzheimer's disease are designed to exploit. Rosemary additionally contains carnosic acid and carnosol, potent antioxidants with documented neuroprotective and anti-proliferative properties in laboratory cancer models. Rosemary is a perennial shrub of impressive hardiness in USDA zones 6 and above. In colder climates, it performs excellently when grown in substantial containers and overwintered in a sheltered indoor space. It is non-negotiable about 2 things: full sun and excellent drainage. Wet soil during cold winters will reliably kill it. Harvest sprigs throughout the year for both culinary and medicinal use. Fresh rosemary tea, 1 generous sprig steeped in boiling water for 10 minutes, is a genuinely restorative and mentally clarifying drink. Rosemary-infused olive oil serves dual culinary and therapeutic purposes. A strong rosemary tea applied as a final scalp rinse after washing has sustained traditional support as a circulatory stimulant for healthy hair growth. Saffron, Crocus sativus. Here it is, number 17, the remedy that was once traded weight for weight against gold and in certain markets and periods exceeded it in value. Saffron is derived from the dried stigmas of Crocus sativus. Each individual flower yields only 3 stigmas, and it takes approximately 150 fully open flowers to produce a single gram of dried saffron. The labor intensity of the harvest, combined with the complete impossibility of mechanical collection, has sustained saffron as one of the world's most precious commodities for 3,500 uninterrupted years of documented trade. Egyptian pharaohs used it in burial preparations. Cleopatra bathed in saffron-infused water. Alexander the Great treated his battlefield wounds with it. Persian and Arabic physicians consistently prescribed it for depression, insomnia, and respiratory ailments across centuries of practice. The clinical evidence for saffron as a treatment for depression has become sufficiently robust that several prominent psychiatry review papers have identified it as the most evidence-supported botanical remedy for mood disorders currently available. Multiple independent randomized controlled trials have found that saffron extract at 30 milligrams daily performs equivalently to standard pharmaceutical antidepressants, including fluoxetine and imipramine, in patients with mild to moderate depression, with a markedly more favorable side effect profile. The active compounds, crocin and safranol, appear to influence serotonin reuptake and metabolism through mechanisms still being actively investigated. Additional research has documented saffron's benefits for PMS symptom relief, age-related macular degeneration, and appetite regulation. Saffron crocuses can be cultivated in any temperate climate given the right conditions. Plant the corms in late summer in well-drained sandy soil in a position that receives full summer sun and remains relatively dry through summer dormancy. The corms dislike wet conditions when not actively growing. Flowers emerge in October, often appearing before the leaves. Harvest the crimson stigmas on dry mornings immediately as flowers open fully, then dry the collected stigmas on clean paper in a warm location. Each corm multiplies and expands over successive years, so a modest initial planting will establish a self-sustaining colony. A therapeutic dose is approximately 30 milligrams of dried saffron, a generous pinch, brewed in warm water or milk. Its extraordinary golden color and complex fragrance make it a profound and beautiful daily ritual.
Nettle, Ortica dioica, may be the single most nutritionally complete wild plant available to those living in the temperate regions of the world. It is also one of the most dramatically misunderstood, dismissed as a weed and a nuisance by those who have not yet learned to recognize what it offers. Archaeological evidence places human use of nettle fiber for clothing and cordage at over 3,000 years. As food and medicine, its history extends equally far back. Roman soldiers stationed in the cold of northern Britain purportedly practiced urtication, deliberately flogging arthritic joints with bundles of fresh nettle, a technique that sounds extreme but has documented anti-inflammatory efficacy through the localized introduction of histamine and formic acid into chronically inflamed joint tissue. Nettle leaf is a genuine nutritional powerhouse that demands to be taken seriously. 100 grams of cooked nettle provides more bioavailable calcium than an equivalent quantity of milk, more iron than an equivalent portion of lean red meat, and meaningful quantities of magnesium, potassium, and vitamins A, C, and K, along with a complete profile of B vitamins. Clinical research has confirmed nettle root's efficacy for benign prostatic hyperplasia, enlargement of the prostate gland, with a systematic review concluding that nettle root extract significantly improved urinary flow rates and reduced nighttime urination episodes compared to placebo. Freeze-dried nettle leaf has additionally been shown in a randomized trial to provide meaningful relief from allergic rhinitis, seasonal hay fever, in the majority of participating subjects. If you have a damp, partially shaded corner of your land, you almost certainly already have nettles established there, and this is a genuine asset rather than a problem to eliminate. For culinary use, harvest only the tender top 4 to 6 leaf pairs in early spring before the plant flowers. Later season leaves develop calcium oxalate cystoliths that can irritate the kidneys with sustained consumption. Steam or blanch the harvested tips immediately. The sting is completely neutralized by both heat and drying. Nettle soup, nettle pesto, and daily nettle tea are simple, deeply nourishing preparations that cost nothing. Nettle is also one of the most valuable companion plants in a medicinal herb garden, documented to increase the essential oil production of neighboring herbs. Turmeric, Curcuma longa. Turmeric has been a cornerstone of both Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine for at least 4,000 documented years. In India, it is simultaneously a medicine, a culinary spice, a fabric dye, a sacred religious offering, and a central element of traditional cosmetic and bridal preparations. Sanskrit medical writings from 250 BCE contain turmeric prescriptions for digestive complaints, skin conditions, and liver disease. The celebrated Arab physician Ibn al-Baitar, writing in the 13th century, described it as a reliable remedy for wounds and hepatic disorders. When European botanical explorers first encountered it in the 16th century, they struggled to categorize a plant that was simultaneously so profoundly medicinal and so inseparably woven into the most ordinary daily domestic life. Curcumin, turmeric's primary active compound, is among the most studied plant-derived compounds in the entire history of modern pharmacological research, the subject of over 12,000 published scientific studies to date. Its documented effects span a genuinely extraordinary range of mechanisms. It powerfully inhibits NF-κB, the master regulatory switch for inflammatory gene expression throughout the body. It modulates multiple cancer-associated signaling pathways, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier, where it has been shown to protect neurons from amyloid plaque accumulation associated with Alzheimer's disease. The essential practical note is bioavailability. Curcumin is absorbed very poorly from the digestive tract when consumed alone, but combining it with piperine, a compound present in black pepper, increases absorption by up to 2,000%. Always pair turmeric with black pepper for meaningful therapeutic benefit. Turmeric is a tropical plant that can be grown successfully as a productive annual in temperate climates or maintained as a perennial in containers overwintered indoors. Plant fresh or dried rhizomes in spring in rich, moist, well-drained soil with bright indirect light. Harvest in late autumn when the leaves begin to yellow and die back naturally. Fresh turmeric can be juiced, grated directly into cooking, or lacto-fermented. For drying, slice into thin rounds and dehydrate at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The resulting pieces can be powdered in a blender or clean coffee grinder. The classic golden milk preparation, 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder, a generous pinch of black pepper, half a teaspoon of ginger, a teaspoon of raw honey, and 2 cups of warm milk is as nourishing as it is ancient. Garlic, Allium sativum, we close because it is not the least remarkable of what we have covered today, but because it is in some essential sense the most fundamental. Garlic has been in continuous medicinal use for longer than written history extends. Clay tablets from ancient Sumer, the world's first recorded civilization, dating to approximately 2600 BCE, already describe garlic in formal medical preparations. The ancient Egyptians fed garlic to the laborers constructing the pyramids, specifically to maintain their strength and resist infection. Actual cloves of garlic were recovered from the tomb of Tutankhamun. The Ebers Papyrus, a comprehensive Egyptian medical document from 1550 BCE, contains no fewer than 22 distinct garlic prescriptions. Hippocrates prescribed it for pulmonary complaints, intestinal parasites, and wound infections. For 5 consecutive millennia, across every civilization on Earth that encountered it, garlic has been medicine. Garlic's primary active compound, allicin, is generated only when raw garlic is crushed or finely chopped, the result of an enzymatic reaction between 2 compounds, alliin and allinase, that are stored separately within the clove and combine upon cellular disruption. This reaction requires approximately 10 minutes to complete, which is why allowing crushed garlic to rest before cooking or consuming it is genuinely important. Allicin has documented broad-spectrum antimicrobial activity, including demonstrated effectiveness against antibiotic-resistant strains of Staphylococcus aureus and Helicobacter pylori. A meta-analysis of randomized trials concluded that garlic supplementation significantly reduces both total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. Separate research has shown consistent blood pressure reductions comparable in magnitude to certain pharmaceutical antihypertensives. If there is one plant that every homesteader, regardless of available land, climate, or experience, should grow without exception, it is garlic. It is one of the simplest and most rewarding crops imaginable. Plant individual separated cloves in autumn, 6 inches apart and 2 inches deep, in any reasonably fertile and well-drained soil. Cover with a mulch of straw or leaves and largely forget about them through the winter months. Harvest in midsummer when the lower third of the leaves have yellowed naturally. Cure the harvested bulbs in a warm, dry, well-ventilated location for 3 to 4 weeks. A well-planned planting will keep a household generously supplied with medicinal garlic for the full calendar year. For maximum therapeutic benefit, crush or mince fresh garlic and allow it to rest for the critical 10-minute enzymatic conversion period before use. Consumed raw, in dressings, fermented preparations, and pestos, is the most therapeutically potent mode of all. We have now covered 20 of the most remarkable medicinal plants the ancient world relied upon and that modern science is actively rediscovering with each passing year. If this information has shifted something in you, if it has opened a door that cannot now be closed, please share this video and tell me in the comments which of these 20 remedies are you teaming up with first. I want to know. We have walked together through 20 doors that most modern people have never been shown. Behind each one was not a product, not a brand, not a subscription service, but a plant. A living, growing, remarkably ancient partnership between human beings and the botanical world that sustained our species through every difficulty and every season, long before any civilization thought to give it a clinical name. Here is what I want you to carry forward from this. Empowerment is not a feeling, it is a practice. It is the daily, deliberate decision to know more about your own body, your own land, and your own health than any corporation or institution finds convenient for you to know. The knowledge we have explored today is not alternative medicine, it is original medicine. It is the primary medicine of our species across almost the entirety of our existence. The notion that it is somehow peripheral, unscientific, or suspect is itself the historical anomaly, a recent one and a brief one. You do not need to take all of this on at once. Start with one plant, grow it through a single season, observe it, harvest it with your own hands, prepare it carefully, use it with intention. Understand it as a living partner rather than a product you consume. That single relationship will teach you more than any amount of passive content consumption ever could, because it is real and it requires your genuine presence. The homestead is not only a physical location, it is a state of sovereignty. It is a daily declaration that you accept responsibility for your own nourishment, your own health, and your own knowledge. Every medicinal plant you choose to grow is a small but entirely genuine act of independence. Every remedy you prepare with your own hands is a thread you add back to a fabric of accumulated wisdom that is 50,000 years old and that was very nearly severed within living memory. We are not powerless. We never were. We simply forgot, briefly, that the pharmacy was already growing. I want to hear from you, genuinely. Down in the comments right now, tell me which of these 20 remedies you are teaming up with first. Are you beginning with elderberry to build your family's resilience through winter, with ashwagandha to meet the sustained demands of modern life with greater steadiness, with garlic, ancient, simple, and utterly reliable? Whatever you choose, your answer is not merely a comment, it is a small declaration of where you're heading. And in a world that profits enormously from your continued dependence, quiet declarations of self-sufficiency are among the most meaningful things a person can make. See you in the next one.